Hi, everybody. Jamie.
Hi, I'm Sally.
And
I'm Erin. Hi.
so we're going to start here in a few minutes. We're going to have a webcast for you today all about holidays and safety. So if you have questions, get them ready. We're going to start in just a couple seconds here. Yay, glad you're here. We're going to turn the music off, of course. All right. And then we can go ahead and officially start. All right. I think I don't want to turn this off, though. It's so much fun. All right. We're turning it off. All right, guys. So here we are. Today is Thursday, December 7th. Just how many days before Christmas? 23? 23? No, 20. 7 minus 24. Anyone quickly? A couple weeks before Christmas. And 3 really smart women who can't do math. And so we are talking today because it is a little bit before the holidays. You know, FetchFind and all of us here at FetchFind like to put out great content for you, whether you are a pet professional or you're a pet owner or you're somewhere, a mix of both. We think that quality content is really important. There's a lot of resources out there that you want to go to for any number of things to learn about pets, and we think that we've got kind of the best. And so why not create a platform for you, like today's webinar, in which you can access some of that information. So we are streaming on Facebook Live. We, of course, have our link here for our Zoom conference, so anyone that's in here live can also post questions. The best way to post questions for us would be to click that link in Zoom, which is on my Facebook page, and you can post directly right into our system. Or I think we can probably have someone here in our office. We're at the FetchFind office. Clearly, this isn't a thing that I have at home, that mural. Maybe someone in our office could be monitoring Facebook, and then if questions come in, they can shoot us over. In fact, let me ask if someone would be willing to do that. Who here in our FetchFind office would be willing to do that? If anyone would be, please let us know, and we'll get the questions that way. But we're going to, so this is, it's really important to us that this is a super accessible format. Sally and Erin and myself are here to really just be a resource. Sally and Erin more than me today, and I'm here to help facilitate questions and conversation about keeping your pet safe during the holidays. So officially welcome. I'm going to give some quick information about my 2 totally amazing, wonderful guests and friends, and you'll see why I've invited them to be to participate in today's conversation about keeping pets safe. So this is a FetchFind broadcast, and our sponsor for today's Keeping Pets Safe is our friends at PetSmart Grooming Academy. I want to definitely give them a shout out, and this is a busy season for them, as it is for many pet professionals, and so we have a lot of homage to all the pet care professionals out there taking care of our pets while we are enjoying our friends and family, groomers, trainers, boarding and daycare facilities, dog walkers, pet sitters, veterinarians, trainers, Erin over there. So everyone's busy for the holidays taking care of people's pets, so we want to just see how we can support you through our expertise and knowledge to do your best in keeping your pets safe and happy over the next month or so and beyond. We care about them all year long, not just during the holidays, but during the holidays there are special challenges which we think are important. So I'm going to first go ahead and introduce, I know Erin and Sally, so it's funny, but I have my little cheat sheet of bio notes here, but I don't want to, so it's really official. So I'll start with Erin because she's joining us from Denver, and so we want to give kudos to our long distance webinar participant. So Erin Schneider, who is Erin Schneider? She's a CPDT dog trainer, which means Certified Pet Dog Trainer, and she's also has a designation of KA, which means that she's had a knowledge assessment of the things that she can do as a dog trainer. Erin also works here at FetchFind. She does all of our client relationship management and making sure that all of our FetchFind customers are well cared for as they are using our product and our software in their businesses. So Erin is kind of the expert around everything dog training, behavior, content, has a lot of incredible experience also just in the regular world of business and brings all of those things to the table to really be a great client support person. She also owns her own, I'm doing this all without even looking at my notes, Erin. She also owns a dog training company out in the Denver area called Touch Dog Training, and sees clients through on a regular basis. She just recently moved to Colorado. She was here in Chicago for a very long time. Erin and I worked together. Erin went to our then Academy for Dog Trainers, and she's just fabulous. So thank you, Erin, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Of course, I'm so glad you're here. And then to my direct left is a friend, neighbor, colleague, literally a neighbor. That's how Sally and I got to meet, even though we have a lot of people in common. She's a neighbor and someone who has an incredible reputation for being a really kind person and a really exquisite veterinarian. So she's been practicing small animal medicine here in the Chicagoland area for
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
She was with Banfield for a long time, and now Sally's moved into smaller practices here in the Chicago area, both at My Vet and Boulevard Veterinary Hospital. And so both of those hospitals are obviously thrilled to have her. I know many of her clients who all quite like her. In fact, one of her clients is one of our employees here at FetchFind, who is really happy that Sally's here today. Both Erin and Sally, I think this is an important note. They obviously are obviously animal lovers and longtime pet owners, but also are parents of small children. And Erin's going to talk a little bit about small children later, but I do think that there's something relevant about having dogs and kids during the holidays, because it's just more chaotic and could lend itself to having to being a little bit more of a more crisis management. Things have to happen. All right, I'm Jamie. I am your moderator for today's webinar, and I'm glad to be here. I'm the CEO and founder of FetchFind. I'm a dog trainer as well. I've been in the pet industry for a really long time, and these are the things that make me really happy to be able to do all these years later. So let's go ahead and start with questions. So we've got a bunch of questions that we've kind of pre-discussed and kind of think that they are important. But again, you guys can go ahead and post questions and we're happy to answer those as well. But let's go ahead. I know I gave a bio for both Sally and Erin. Let's maybe talk a little bit about, starting with Sally, let's talk a little bit about your background and your experience, but how about your background and experience as it relates to families, working with families, working with people who have multiple pets.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi, thanks for having me, Jamie.
You're welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
First of all, thank you for having me, because this is really important to me as far as pet safety. And during the holiday season, we see a lot of cases during this time. And as I was talking to Erin earlier, we see a lot of rabies observations with families and kids. So it's definitely an important time with holiday parties.
Rabies observations because dogs are biting.
Yeah, so really nice.
It's really important.
I should say that really nice dogs can bite, especially when kids are coming in for parties and being there as guests. So definitely, I know Erin's going to touch on this much later about this in more detail, but I definitely want to make sure that we're being vigilant about caring for our pets in the cases that I see. So we definitely see a lot of vomiting and diarrhea cases, and we, especially with kids and giving the pets different types of treats and things like that. So things like grapes and chocolate and macadamia nuts, things that, a lot of people know and can do an easy internet search, but aren't really aware, especially if you're having parties or having guests bringing in food to the homes. So definitely being aware of that and just prevention, trying to even put the food away or not have the food in the house if there are pets.
It's so hard though. It's so hard. So in your background and your experience, all of these pieces, I love, by the way, Erin, I love that Sally brought up all the bite stuff. Because I don't think people think about safety, holiday safety as it relates to bites.
Right.
I think we think of, like you just said, the macadamia nuts, the grapes, the chocolate, all the things that we're all, cats eating poinsettias.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. All those obvious holiday things.
Yeah.
But it's the lilies?
Yeah, lilies.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, already we're learning together.
No lilies.
But thinking about the bites is really important. So can I ask you, in your veterinary experience, during the holiday season, what's more heartbreaking to see, or what's more upsetting isn't the right word, but what's more heartbreaking, upsetting? Is it the behavior stuff or is it the health stuff?
We definitely see a lot more health stuff cases. So as far as decorations and the vomiting, diarrhea, things like that. So definitely there's a lot for preventative. So there's the worst cases I've seen are things like tinsel, ornaments being eaten. So a lot of times,
seriously?
So a lot of times they'll come in for not eating, vomiting, diarrhea. And I think the worst cases that we see are, especially during the holidays, are when owners will wait. So if pet parents wait to bring them in and kind of just wait it out. And it's really hard to tell sometimes with ornaments and decorations if things are even missing. So sometimes you'll be able to see it on the ground or a mess, but sometimes it's hard to tell. So.
And do you love, do you enjoy emergency medicine better or more internal medicine, like day-to-day stuff?
All of it.
Do you like surgery too, right?
I love surgery, and I love dentistry. But
you do love all of it. That's all of it. You just checked. What about dermatology?
I like it now more because allergies we can prevent a lot more. So I guess I really love prevention. So anything we can do to prevent is my biggest, goal. So I think things like this and prevention and trying to talk to people about things that are safe for pets and like dentistry, brushing their teeth and oral health care, trying to prevent those things from occurring. So that makes me happy when people get excited about not going to the vet for problems and more just prevention.
It's funny. It's such a funny business model, right? Because really, that's how you make your money, or that's how hospitals make their money. But yet veterinarians have their job is to make that animals don't come into the animal hospital.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a funny juxtaposition I never thought about. Erin, we talk a little bit about your experience around the holidays as a dog trainer, as an animal professional, some of your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I see a lot of the same things that she was saying. And a lot of it just goes around management. It's, I also want to treat prevention, really. So it's, how can I prevent an accident from happening? How can I prevent this dog from eating the ornaments off of the tree, getting it stuck in their digestive system? So that's a lot of what I deal with too. And management is going to be your best friend, especially during the holidays, when you're going to friends' houses, you're going to families' houses, when you're leaving your kids unattended with relatives and their dog that they're unfamiliar with. Management and prevention is going to be the best bet. So I do see a lot of dogs that get into like chicken bones, turkey bones, especially at Thanksgiving and Christmas, that can be a big issue. So it's just, how can we get your dog ready to go into these situations? What are some basic things that we can do? It might be training. It might be just working on some nice calm behavior in that household, working on a go-to place so your dog can, if you are all sitting at the dinner table, you don't have to worry about your dog getting into something. You can tell them go to their place and they can go lie there and hang out. It can also be, like I said, leashes, crates, gates, any of those management tools that can be effective. So I want to help my clients how to what fits best for them in their lifestyle and in the time frame that they have. Because if they come to me saying I'm going to go to my parents' house in 2 days, I'm not really going to work on training at that point. So let's work on management. But if they're like, yeah, we've got 3 months, great, we can do some training and get ready for it.
So what's more practical, really, in your opinion, both of your opinions? Is it really about focusing on the management part, or is it focusing on management is prevention, but it's also kind of a quick fix to stop a problem, or is it more like long-term, bigger picture program design around? I guess this is really more of a behavior question around keeping pets safe. So for example, I think yours was exactly right. Is it easier and better to coach people, just get your leashes, get your crates, and get your gates, versus let's do 15 sessions at an hour each for 3 sessions a week for 12 weeks to get 4 weeks to get our dogs to hold a great sit stay? Or do you think it's more economical, both in time, money, and effort, to just say, let's just set this up, let's set the household up so they can't get to the foods that are going to potentially hurt them, they can't bite people, they can't escape from the door? What do you think what would be your guess? What would be your suggestion? If someone said, listen, I talked to a trainer, they want me to do all this training, I've got a house full of people coming in 3 weeks. Do you suggest that they go ahead and see that through, or do you think it's a better solution just to say, get your tools in place?
I think both. So there's definitely, I like to start with puppies and, kittens and things like that to start initially. So as far as our prevention talk and trying to get them, it can be overwhelming though. So there's a lot of information. So we give them vaccines, heartworm prevention, flea prevention, and behavior. So there's a lot of information.
Spay neuter.
Yeah. So oral health care. So there's a lot of things that come into play. So I think instead of trying not to be overwhelming and take it step by step in the visits, but definitely talking about behavior in the puppy visits initially. And then also talking about pet insurance and ASPCA hotline and all that from the beginning. So it's nice because a lot of practices I worked at will have a handout as far as in a whole folder full of information. But I think the most important thing definitely to have your veterinary number, call them. There's definitely lots of great information on Google and lots of great information everywhere, but I always give my email to clients.
Your personal email?
Yeah, because it's really important that if they have questions, please just ask me directly. So that way they can not have questions and if they're wondering. Yeah, and then as far as the management piece, if they're older and having behavioral issues and we know what those issues are, definitely recommend referral to training and FetchFind and trainers like Erin as far as working that out, and even veterinary behaviors like Dr. Valentine. And then I'd like to use a lot of positive reinforcement, redirection, and try to get things set as far as trigger management that way. And then if it's too far gone as far as like, I know I understand people's schedules and traveling and all that too. So if they tell me we're having a party, we're having this, and we're having people over, and it's very stressful for our pet, it's very stressful for guests to come to our house. Definitely working in that interim period. And I guess it's making a management plan with the expectations. So I think I can say all these recommendations, but it's not going to be followed through. So I really need to have expectations, goals, just like pet parents do. So so figuring out what their goals are and expectations, and then I think just, again, prevention. So trying to separate them into another room if they get too stressed out doing that.
So what about that? So Erin, what's your opinion on just taking a little vacation? So having people over for a holiday dinner,
boarding.
Right. Just give it. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Sending the dogs to a boarding qualified, reputable.
Yeah.
Boarding.
Make sure they have their flu vaccine.
Did you see? You know what though? Hold on. This moment, what you just said, because I wasn't thinking that. Were you, Erin?
No, I wasn't, but I love that we have the vet who can then.
I know that was such a perfect moment of it. That for me right there. I feel like that moment, like what Sally just said, is exactly why we want to do this, because this is the thing. Like, so number one, I think what we can do, the three of us can do together, being, with the lens that we have, is first of all say, it's okay if you want to put your dog in daycare or overnight care for the
totally
night. Like,
do it. If it's
just it's okay. Just do it. It's okay. Send them away for the day. It does not make you a bad parent, pet parent. It does not label your dog as being, unmanageable or, bad citizen dog.
It's way less stressful, and then it's just safer for everybody involved.
Which I mean, and listen, this is not for everybody, because I can't, I have two dogs. One of them is laying here. I'll show you, just so you know, like this dog laying on can you see that dog laying on the chair? Like, clearly she's not leaving the house for a holiday. She doesn't even really move. And then I've got my other dog, hold on, just to show you what I'm talking about, just because these are the dogs that you don't need to, these are dogs I'm probably not going to board. Then there's my collie laying in a teeny little dog bed. So like, there are some dogs that you don't need to even think about that, but I'll tell you what, if my dogs were food stealers or biters, or they were really anxious, or they were, they weren't able to settle when there were things happening, then it's the right thing to do for them as well.
And you have to remember too, like, you might be going to somebody's house who has a dog and has animals that your dog might not get along with. So you have to be very, first of all, respectful of that, knowing that it's that dog's house that you're going into, so that dog gets priority over your dog in that case. So if you know that you're going into a house with animals or with children and your dog doesn't get along with children, then you need to be respectful of that and say, okay, I need to find an alternate situation for it. So either I don't stay the night. If that's not an option, okay, then I need to board my dog somewhere, find a reputable pet sitter, whatever it may be. But you do need to pay attention to the house that you're walking into, because you don't want to put your dog or your host dog in a situation that that could be potentially bad. So that's something you definitely want to think about.
To that point, that's a great point. And so back to Sally's point, if you're going to decide to board your dog or put them in some sort of multi-dog situation outside of your home, flu shot, and that's regional. That's not just regional. That's national, right? The flu.
Oh yeah. It's definitely spread. There are cases in Texas and different cases in California, but here
should everyone have the flu shot anyway?
No, I think it's really just lifestyle choice. So as far as vaccines, there's core vaccines that definitely are required or legally need, so rabies and parvo, and then other vaccines.
So parvo is required?
No, just that one's our core vaccine. So rabies is legally needed, and then parvo vaccine will, it's our core vaccine where it's very preventative to have it, and we definitely see it everywhere, and it's very incredibly contagious too. So it's part of our AHA guideline core vaccine.
AHA is the American Animal Hospital
Association.
Okay.
And so it's definitely very important to have that. And then sorry, we're getting another stranger when we talk about vaccines. So
I know, right? Oh no, we have a veterinarian in the room. Really we talk about vaccines. Like that's it. Go ahead, you have the floor.
So leptospirosis is also very important, especially in Chicago. It's a bacterial infection that
from urine.
Yep, from urine of rodents. It is also zoonotic, which means it's transferred to people as well.
Did you know that, Erin? That lepto is. Well, I don't think I realized that until
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah.
And it can cause kidney liver failure. So that one definitely recommend in Illinois. And again, that's case by case, so it depends where you travel to. And then the Lyme vaccine is an imported vaccine. I definitely recommend too. That's one of my core vaccines if they are in Chicago. And then the Lyme vaccine, usually if they're going to be exposed to ticks. So, that's basically
here in Colorado.
The East Coast. Basically anywhere they can be exposed to ticks. And usually in Chicago, it's very rare if they're only city dogs to see ticks, but I've even seen them go to Oz Park and come back with the ticks.
Seriously?
So it's just something to think about, even to just keep flea and tick prevention on. And then the influenza vaccine, the H3N2, it's really an important one. We used to vaccine with H3N8, but the strain, I don't know if you remember the flu craziness.
A couple years ago.
Yeah, it was just a few years ago. It was incredibly scary because there were lots of dogs that were being treated for pneumonia, and it was incredibly contagious. So all these dogs in high rises, one dog would be sick in a kennel facility and expose like 150 dogs. So it just spread pretty quickly. So we're not seeing as many cases now. I think people are being very responsible.
And they're vaccinating.
Yeah, they're vaccinating, especially if they go to boarding, kennel facilities, even grooming facilities or dog parks. I would recommend
grooming too. I don't think about grooming as being a place that you can. I don't think of that at all.
Yeah. And then people are, I can understand being worried about vaccine reactions and such things too. So, you always want to look out for vaccine reactions, vomiting, diarrhea, facial swelling, any of those we want to know about.
So if you are thinking about boarding your dog, this is a really actually excellent point too. If you're thinking about boarding your dog because it's just the best choice for your family and for your dog, don't get your flu shot the day before you're going to board because you want to be able to have some time to make sure that they're okay.
Yeah, you do need a booster 3 weeks.
Oh, what is it?
So you need a.
Okay, so hold on. Yeah. So where are we at right now? Can they do it now?
They can. They'll have some immunity, but then they'll need to be boosted in 3 to 4 weeks.
So maybe more for like New Year's planning.
Yeah.
Okay, but still, I guess.
And if your dog's coughing, just please be responsible and not bring your dog to any boarding kennel facilities. Think about your own dog being healthy and not coughing and suddenly getting really sick later. So there's great facilities in places that will come to your house, and I know you have a lot of programs that dog walking programs and things like that can come to your house to take care of them at your house where they're isolated.
Even too, I know some people over the years, and maybe you guys do as well, where during a holiday dinner or a stay where family is coming to stay for a prolonged period of time, that you do have a sitter come in and just do the walking, take them out for a couple of hours. I mean, there's lots of ways. So there's so many great service providers now that if you, especially around the holidays, they're all they're already busy and they're looking to just be service minded. And so if it's something that you're thinking about as an option, that I don't want to board my dog, but I wouldn't mind having him or her taken out for 3 walks during the span of, from 9 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, then you can always pay someone to help you with that. So there's lots of options for pet management that are kind of unique to what we think about on a daily basis during the busy holiday season. Hey, Erin, I want to quickly just mention for you that you've done a couple of blogs on the FetchFind Fetchies blog. And so we can post those afterwards, but you've written some nice posts about holiday management, about holiday safety with training tools and things. So let's make sure we post that, because it's really good kind of, just kind of overarching things to consider, and they're in writing and there's links, and you did a really nice job with that. Actually, let's get more. I like the tactical conversation around the holidays. So let's talk about emergency kits. Okay, both a training emergency kit and a veterinary emergency kit. So let's set the scene. It is Christmas Eve. You're getting everything ready. Your dog is, a regular dog, not a huge behavioral need dog. Doesn't typically, has occasionally gotten into some things, what have you. What are the top 3 things, Erin, that you think that a household should be equipped with during what's going to be a very busy couple of days? And then I'll ask the same, what needs to go in that veterinary emergency kit? And obviously we know that emergency vets are right there, but what should people have at home to do things that maybe even for treatment at home? So Erin, let's start with you. I think you may have already mentioned a couple of things, but let's just maybe review those things. Top 3 things that everyone should have at home to help with management around the holidays.
So leash would be my number 1 thing. I would say a gate or a crate, either. Preferably, I would like a crate, but gates are perfectly fine if that's what you have, or your dog doesn't like to be in a crate. And then I would say yummy treats, or a Kong or something of that sort.
Let's talk about the Kong really quick. So how do you recommend people would use a Kong?
Yeah, so if your dog is familiar with the Kong, then I would just stuff it full of their favorite goodies. So peanut butter is great, but I do want to always mention xylitol. Xylitol. Make sure that there's no xylitol in your peanut butter. Yeah, I thought the vet would like that.
Sugar-free. Stay away from sugar-free anything.
Exactly. Sugar-free is not good. I always say Google Kong parfaits, and you'll be surprised what you come up with on Google. But mashed up bananas mixed in with some of their kibble, plain yogurt. I love, especially if your dog suffers from any digestive issues, I really like pureed pumpkin, not the pumpkin pie spice filling, but just plain pureed pumpkin. That can be really nice for a lot of dogs.
As long as they've had an experience with it before, where we know they haven't had explosive diarrhea within 3 hours of ingestion.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I say. If your dog is familiar with the Kong, definitely go down those routes. If your dog isn't, or if you have a new puppy and you haven't introduced them to a lot of the foods, I would say stuff the Kong full of their kibble and then just cork it. So just cover the opening with a little bit of peanut butter, a little bit of yogurt, mashed up banana, just something that will prevent the food from falling out immediately. That will allow them to kind of look at it, and then all the goodness comes out right away. So if a dog that's really not familiar with Kongs, they might not be so sure about it, this is a nice way to introduce it to them slowly, but also filled with yummy goodness.
So then, Erin, to that point, would you also recommend that if we're having guests come over, save the meals? So don't feed breakfast and use the Kong perhaps instead, so they're not satiated, and you can actually use that as a tool?
Yeah, great point. Absolutely. So if you know you're going to be going to a friend's house or, anything of that sort, definitely don't feed them before you go. Wait to fill up that Kong with all of their food. So yeah, you're not giving them the extra calories. This is especially important. I say with treats in general, try to feed kibble when you can. Use that as your treat as much as possible. But definitely don't waste their kibble on meals. Use it for these rewards.
Cool. Thanks. All right, those are awesome. All right, Sally, to you. Kit.
Just excited about all I agree to everything Erin said. I think everything she said was great. And I love Kong products too. I think they work really well. And just to add to that, there's no, I guess I've seen one form body of Kongs, but just make sure they're large enough that the dog can't swallow it. Kong is a great product, so they can't really chew it up. Because you do want to be aware of anything you give to them, that they've had before, like Jamie said and Erin said, and make sure that they can't fracture teeth, that it's too hard on their teeth, and that also that it's not going to be small enough to be swallowed, so causing a foreign body. But thank you for saying about xylitol, because I shouldn't be smiling talking about xylitol, but I'm really happy you mentioned it. And if anyone out there doesn't know what xylitol is, it's in a lot of sugar-free products. It's really common for us to eat. We can metabolize xylitol. It's not unsafe for us. It's fine. It's safe for us to eat. But it's very, very toxic to dogs and cats and and all animals actually. So it's
so it's a kind of toxicity where like it's
they
could die.
It's bad. Yeah, they can get liver failure, hypoglycemia, neurologic disease. It can happen pretty quickly. It can happen quickly, and then other effects can happen later on too. So usually I'll monitor blood work for a couple days if they've eaten xylitol, and then hospitalized too, because they can get pretty sick. And again, it's in anything sugar-free products, which a lot of things now are sugar-free, like Erin was saying, a lot of peanut butter products that we typically give to dogs, and peanut butter is higher in fat too, so just be aware of that if they can't have fat and pancreatitis. But it's also in essential oil stuff that I've seen, and I love essential oil products. I have good friends that use them and use them for their pets, but just make sure if you use them to contact your veterinarian and see if the products are safe. If it has xylitol, definitely don't use it. I think I've talked about xylitol enough. Sorry.
Xylitol.
That's good information.
Xylitol.
No
Xylitol. No.
Okay, sorry. The original question of emergency kits. That actually reminds me of a vet school question that I had in an interview, and the question was in my vet school interview question, it was what would you get from Walmart if you had to think about veterinary medicine? And I was not
before you were a vet?
Yeah, this is when I was applying to vet school, and I was in an interview.
But don't you want to say like that's why I'm coming to vet school? Like what? I don't know. I'm going to vet school to learn about that.
And I wasn't thinking about Walmart, so it was a very no. But it's a great question for your emergency kit, because I had to think about it, because my response was epinephrine and e-tubes and catheters, but I really didn't think about it from a pet parent perspective.
Yeah,
so it's kind of nice to think outside the box and get a different kind of question I haven't really had before. So it definitely, your veterinary phone number, please call them. You can absolutely email me and I can give you my email, but if I don't know the history of the patient, I'm not going to be able to facilitate the best answer. So definitely your vet who has all the history is going to have
an emergency
all the information
clinic as well.
Absolutely, emergency clinic in Chicago. Chicago MedVet and Premier are great ER facilities, and I refer to them all the time. They're fantastic, and thank you to them for working when a lot of us are at home with our families. So I appreciate that very much. And ASPCA phone number as well is huge. I think I can't remember how much, but it's $40 to $60 to get a case number, and that case number goes with your veterinarian. So that case number, that is the best. I've called them for my own pets. They have all the information as far as we know, the top poisonous things and how to treat, but really if it's things that we don't really know about or that we don't see a lot of cases of, they're going to have all that information. And it's basically, they go by donations too. So they are incredibly helpful. So ASPCA phone number, veterinary phone number, and then hydrogen peroxide is also a good product to have in your home, because if your pet did eat, say, a bushel of grapes or things that are known to be toxic in dogs, the first thing I would do is call ASPCA, and then second thing I would do, well, you can call your vet first and then call ASPCA to get that information as far as how much to give hydrogen peroxide and exactly how to go about doing that. And keeping in mind too that there's a lot of corrosive products that shouldn't be vomited, and hydrogen peroxide is going to make your dog have emesis and vomit so that it can actually get rid of all of the toxins.
What's an example of a corrosive?
There's also things like anything that could burn too, or anything that could expand or splinter. Yeah.
So what's an example of that? Like chicken bones?
So like chicken bones, like a toothpick, just things that could, if they vomit, it could slice the esophagus and then cause some issues there too. So
some of our viewers mentioned drain cleaner.
Yeah, like cleaners, different bleaches, things like that. Because if it reacts with the hydrochloric acid in the stomach, that can also bring up some issues too.
One of our attendees of the webinar just said glass.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like so obvious, but at the same time,
yeah. So just so I would just say I wouldn't jump to have hydrogen peroxide in your house, but again, just call your vet to make sure that it's, one, safe to have them vomit, or two, to see how much to give to according to their weight. And then definitely wounds, injuries can happen. So I'm not encouraging bandaging at home, but I think it's a good idea just to manage the bleeding right away. So bandaging material would be good. So things like gauze and some like Elasticon vet wrap bandaging material would be really good, just to make sure to stop any bleeding initially. But I would definitely go to the ER, go to your veterinary office as soon as it happens. And that's,
at home. That's where you can stop being a veterinarian at home. That's it. She's like, you know what? Everything else, please, let us handle. We're good.
But I love it though. So that's I think just definitely, and having that open communication too. I mean, I know it's hard sometimes in between cases and patients to get on the phone right away. But I love our front desk and our technicians, and they're incredibly intelligent, and they'll always, if they ever have a question, they'll always relay the questions to us. So if it's a really busy day where we're seeing a lot of cases, and we're not able to jump on the phone right away, we'll make sure to have our staff, appropriately be able to communicate that. So,
and then on the holidays, obviously the emergency clinics are
definitely.
Oh, here. So another one of our folks said it always helps to have a first aid app or a Pro Pet Hero course. Yeah, have absolutely. The more, to that point, the more education, the better.
Oh, and sorry.
Go. This is great.
So there is the airway, breathing, circulation, just like first aid and making sure. I did have an owner who saved her dog's life at Oz Park. They were playing, and the dog suddenly went limp and wasn't breathing, and they called. This is a friend's client, so over at Oz hospital. So hi, Vashali, if you're out there. But yeah, so we managed the case after, because she had told me about it, and then the client came to us. But anyway, she had called the vet hospital, and they had said to go ahead and look in the airway to make sure to pull out. And there was a ball that was stuck in there too. So they pulled out the ball, and the airway wasn't obstructed anymore. And the pet parent saved her dog's life by doing that.
But honestly, this is maybe a little bit too detailed of a question, but how do you get the ball out? You just reach down and pull it out?
She reached in and pulled out.
She didn't have to do.
So she, in that case, she reached in and pulled out the ball, and then in another situation, you can go ahead and give almost like a Heimlich maneuver, and it depends on the size of the pet. If it's a small dog, you can kind of give like a side compression, and then if it's a bigger dog, you'd have to get on top of the dog to give a compression and use your weight. But,
so this is like, so I'd say that this totally does bring up the topic, which is not really what our topic is today, but it is like a compelling conversation about, do you think that pet owners, dog, cat, more of the small animal population, do you think that everyone should have a first aid course, have taken a first aid course?
Yeah, just like as parents, we took them,
right?
And I think it's definitely a good idea just to be aware. And I love, with groomers at PetSmart, which is telling of this. So we wrote at the Kingsbury location where I used to work, we wrote down all the things that would be abnormal to look for.
So you as Banfield worked with the PetSmart groomers.
Yep. Yeah. And so I wrote a list of things because they see things all the time, and and we would work together, and it was this something to refer over to a vet or something they can do at home. 9 times out of 10 it would be, we'd have to see him for an exam. But things like just even like brown debris in the ears or redness of the eyes, green discharge coming out of the eyes, things that are not normal, or things that are normal, like little brown spots of hyperpigmentation. That's, just part of so things that, owner pet parents wouldn't know, but have questions about. So definitely, even just things to look and see what are normal, or even just ask questions when you're at the vet office. Like, is this normal? Is this not normal? Just to know. Because I know I have questions when I go to the pediatrician, and it makes me totally have empathy and make me think that, you know, if I'm in this situation and I'm not aware, then definitely pet owners are unaware and wondering and questioning and hopefully not thinking, is this a dumb question? 'Cause no questions are.
Which also speaks to, yeah, no question is dumb at all, of course, but also it speaks to, now we're talking a little bit more to our professional side of our audience, and kind of just being FetchFind, that whether you are a groomer or a dog walker, pet sitter, whether you work in a pet retail location where people are coming in, because, you know, the reality is that we as pet owners, we trust anyone that we spend money with. So if we give you money for a pet service or product, you are automatically elevated to a status that that has more knowledge, and we trust what you have to say more. So take that really seriously. And obviously, you know, my team and I have built a whole business around supporting you as a professional to not have to guess at some of these answers, but to actually have qualified information, well-sourced information that you can help the average pet owner with, or even the above average pet owner with. But as a professional, I do love the Banfield PetSmart groomer example, where like also being a professional is about being open to getting that support and that advice from other professionals in the space. Obviously, when health and safety information is coming from a veterinarian, that's very, you know, that's the highest, right? That's like the grand poobah of information that we respect. But there's so much stuff in between that it really is important that you're open to hearing information so you can pass that along. And also, I will just take a moment, since we're over halfway through our webcast, and since you said it, that this is being brought to us by actually the PetSmart Grooming Academy. So there you go. Look at that. And that wasn't even a setup, by the way. That was just like perfect. Okay, so I'm going to review really quickly the emergency toolkit from our friend Erin and from Dr. Sally. For training and behavior, we're talking about Kong, leash, crate, gait. And for emergency at-home kit, just bring your dog to the vet. That's it.
Hydrogen peroxide is good.
Of course, peroxide, gauze, and some bandage material. But that's our kit information. Okay, so to that point, what are in your experience? If you want to think of, I'll give you guys a second to think about like I hate to use the word nightmare because it seems so dramatic, a nightmare, but what is like probably one of the stories that you think about when it comes to the holidays that you know could have been prevented had an owner only done one or two things differently? Can either of you or both of you think of a situation like that? I'll give one of my own from my many years in dog training, is a hit by car. Yeah. So I have a client that, I just got the chills. Yeah. I had a really great client out in a suburb, Glenview, a suburb of Chicago. And they were great dog training clients. I'd seen them for many years. They had two dogs, two kind of like Shih Tzu mixes. And one of them was a little bit newer to the house, was a little bit more reactive. We always practiced different good, door behavior, et cetera. And she was hosting, I can't recall which holiday it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas, regardless. And she had mentioned something to me about, should I be worried about that? Because sometimes I think the dog's name was Oliver. It was Oliver. Oliver, how he gets at the door. And it's still like, I still think about this. I didn't say, here's what you need to do. I did the whole here's what you could do. When people come in, you can put his leash on this little hook over here, or you can ask your husband or your kid or your friend. I didn't do what I wish I would have done. And I don't think it was my fault. I just know that experience has really changed me. And Erin, maybe you've seen this over the years where I don't say here's maybe what you can do. I said, listen, if that's going to happen, this is what you need to do, because I know for a fact that this is a really possible outcome. And that dog did get hit by a car and died. And it was on the holiday. And again, I think Christmas or Thanksgiving, it doesn't matter. Any day, it's a horrible thing. And when I spoke with the owner, and, we continued to work together for a long time after, and, worked her through the grieving process. And, and she always understood me to have told her, that's what she should have done for best practice. But I think it's a professional's responsibility to talk about worst case scenario, because what I should have said to her, right? So I should have said, if you don't do this, the likelihood of your dog being hit by a car is very high. And I didn't say that sentence. And I always think about that.
What I think about is all the prevention you're doing after, and it's really sad, and it's incredibly unfortunate, and none of us want to go through that. And I feel like as in every profession we go through that, especially in veterinary medicine, where we think, oh, we could have done this differently, or we could have done that differently, but now we have those tools that we could do all of these things to prevent other things from happening. So we can kind of put that in our, learn from it. We can move on, and there's nothing that you could do. You can't feel guilty about it, but I think we all just, as we have so much empathy, we have so much compassion for what we do, that we feel very guilty. So, and I think we all just innately do that. I think as parents, as moms and things, and especially with animals and pets, they are our kids. So we want to think about all those things that we can do to try to prevent it. And I do that all the time. And you were saying what veterinarians say is like, oh, the highest. And I don't think that at all, to be honest. Like, I think we're always learning, we're always growing. And I think whatever works. And I think everything medicine-wise and behavior-wise, it's always changing, and we're learning more every day. So I think that, you have probably, that is a terrible thing. I know you look back at that, but now you're saying we have to do this to prevent this from happening. And how many dogs, you don't know, but there's a lot of dogs that you probably saved just by telling them.
For sure.
So.
No, I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. I think so. So that's like those nightmare scenarios. Like, I think, you never want to have one, but when you think about like how those inform all of your future,
and I'm sure she's telling people, other pet owners that
she for sure. She has like totally changed. I haven't seen her in many years, but I know that she has really changed her entire attitude. That that it's her responsibility to really make sure that the worst case scenario doesn't happen. Erin, can you think of one of your a nightmare scenario that you draw upon for kind of prevention mindedness?
Yeah, I can. And my worst case scenario would be a dog bite to a kid. I mean, that would be the worst. And I had a client that I worked with that brought me in after the fact, but they were the grandparents, and their dog was not very used to kids. Saw the kids once in a while. The grandchildren came over. I think it was Thanksgiving. I can't remember exactly, but one of the kids, they weren't doing anything really inappropriate. They weren't climbing on the dog or anything of that sort. I think they literally just grabbed for a toy of theirs, and the dog bit. And it can happen really quickly. And the grandparents were, of course, devastated because their grandchild was pretty badly bit. Here they thought they had this lovely dog, who was, by the way, a lovely dog. And it completely changed their relationship with their grandchildren, with their kids. It was really upsetting for them. So I had to come in afterwards, and they were debating whether they put the dog down. The children were calling for that. They felt they were really torn. They didn't know what to do. And it was a really tough situation. And I see it all too often where I get brought in after the fact, after a dog bite. And it's hard. It's really hard.
So
it's building that dog. I mean, you have to build the trust. You have to, not only is management key at that point, management is, you have to do it. But then it's also, how can I train my dog to now trust these kids, to be different around children? How can I help my kid or grandchild in this instant learn to trust dogs and not be scared of them? So it affects everything.
So thinking about holidays, so far these two examples, we're going to talk to Dr. Sally in a second, get your kind of worst case scenario, nightmare scenario. But already we're looking at, like, if this is a webinar that's designed to help keep your pet safe, keep these couple things in mind. They sound really like, awful and overwhelming, and oh my gosh, I can't even imagine, or that would never happen to me. But the reality is, if that's really what our intention is today, is to have you think about things that you want to prevent. So dogs running out the door and being hit by a car, or just running away. anything, dogs escaping the home, that's a very high likelihood if it's a dog that has any history of that at all, or a newer dog to the house, or a scenario in which the dog's never been, which is maybe a whole bunch of people coming in. So that's number one. Number two, dogs bite, to the tune of 4.6 million dog bites reported a year to the CDC. And those are just reported bites. We talk about this a lot, right? It's probably more like 20 or 30 million dog bites a year because of all the dog bites that go unreported. And I know that each of you listening right now can think of at least one or two times that you or somebody you know have been bitten that didn't go to the authorities. So think about that kind of exponentially and what that number ends up being, that dogs bite a lot. And so during the holidays, it's pretty chaotic. And if a dog is going to bite, it's probably more likely that that may happen during one of the more chaotic moments that the holidays do bring on. So for you, I'd love to hear what you're kind of like, what you draw from.
Yeah, I just, well, I was thinking of an answer. I have an answer, but definitely hit by a car. I agree with you 100%. And the dog bite, I agree with you 100%. So just to build on that, if people and guests are coming in and out of the house, definitely, and your dog's going to be by the door and possibility of running out, just to clarify, make sure to put them in a crate, put them in another room. And then with the dog bite, we talk a lot about behavior and dog training, but on the other side of things, kids really need to be talked to and educated too. So,
oh my God, this is such a good point.
Because my dogs are perfect, but they totally could bite. Like Miller, I have two decrepit geriatric golden retrievers.
I can actually vouch for her. They're totally decrepit.
One has 3 legs.
One has 3 legs.
Like terrible degenerative joint disease, and I want to make sure to protect them. So Maddie used to climb, my 3-year-old daughter used to climb on their back and like ride them, and we all laugh, but it's not okay. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Now she knows. So started 2 years ago, Miller and Max started to show more signs of pain and arthritic behaviors and things like that. So I managed them medically, but now I'm very aware of my 3-year-old daughter not doing things like that. And she is so aware of it that she will tell her friends to not do that.
That's awesome.
So, Mason's might have a 12-month-old who is climbing around everywhere, and he loves our cat, and our cat loves him. So we just have to make sure we're there right in between them every time. And it's a lot of work, but it's,
because cats will cause more damage than dogs, right?
Oh yeah, all of them, all the above. Yeah. So I think it's really important to educate kids, because the only time that I am very, very nervous when people come over are when the kids don't have pets, and they're not used to them. So they're very curious and they want to chase the cat, they want to chase the dog, they want to jump on the dogs. So it's something that I am very much passionate about too, because I don't want the kids to get hurt, and I don't want the dogs to feel scared and get hurt either, or the cats. So definitely I even lectured my nieces the other day, which I don't think my sister's mad at me about.
Hold on, Sally. The UPS man is here at our office.
Barking.
So there might be a little bit, these dogs might be too tired to bark. We'll see what happens. Oh, wait. Don't ring the bell. Oh, no. Don't ring our door. Oh, hi. Hold on. We're going to make sure that this doesn't happen. Thank you. Okay. We didn't want to, this could happen.
A little comedy break.
A little real life break is what that is. Thank you, Christina. Thank you.
But I definitely just want to emphasize that, yes, our dogs and our pets can be perfect, and our kids could be perfect, but they may not be perfect to be in the same space together. So I really want to make sure to help educate, especially parents with kids, to really help educate them to how to pet dogs, how to pet cats, where they're fearful, how they look fearful, how they look happy. It's pretty like easy points, even flashcards, FetchFind flashcards, something like that would be good, right?
I think here's what I used to do. Erin, do you remember in the old days of Animal Sense, which was the dog training company that I used to own, that we offered people the signs to put on their door? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I do. I recommend that for my clients too. I don't have Animal Senses, but I have something similar that I put up for my clients. So yep.
So you could at the holidays or really anytime is you can actually create, just, a little 8x10 sheet that you laminate and put on your front door saying, just you're coming into our home. Here are a couple things. Please don't pet the dog, or please don't give treats, or please, if he jumps on you, ignore, or whatever it is. But you can actually, as a pet owner, this is again, not just for holiday, this is in general, but you have all of the authority and the wherewithal to be able to put a sign like that on your door to give people some like just general tips. And it serves as a little bit of a warning, right? And so that's, I think for the holidays especially, you can make a cute little like Pinteresty kind of fun thing, welcome to our Christmas Eve dinner. Our dog is kind of a jerk, so, whatever.
Very funny. So I do get questions from people, actually more friends, I guess, than clients, but how do I bring this up to my sister? How do I bring this up to my, so.
Or you can hand it out when people come in. Welcome to our home. Here's the guide for
And you do have to remember, as either a parent of children or a parent of pets or both, you have to remember that you are the advocate for your animal and for your child. So it is an uncomfortable conversation for sure to have with the relatives. Be like, hey, your dog's kind of crazy. Can you maybe separate them? Or, my kid's a little insane and they're not very respectful. Can we separate? It is an uncomfortable conversation to have, but it's better to have had that conversation and to know what their response is than to not have that conversation and have a bad outcome occur. So do remember that you are the advocate for your pet, for your child, and it is your responsibility to speak up and to say something. And at the end of the day, if some hurt feelings, fine. If it meant that I prevented my kid from getting bit, or I prevented your dog from biting and having that a bite record on them, then great, then I've done that. So again, it can be a very uncomfortable conversation.
It can be, but I feel like it can be turned quickly as long as you're an advocate. Like, for instance, if it's that pet, like, start with a sandwich that, your pet is great or your kid is great. I want to keep them safe. How can we work together to do that? So I feel like just having a pretty honest conversation and making sure to still have fun on the holidays and not, try to not have it be so awkward conversation, but it's definitely something that I see a lot and I'm pretty passionate about, because I think, again, prevention is the biggest key for that. And then as far as veterinary things that I see, thinking back, one of the worst case scenarios I saw was a cat that ate just a ball of tinsel. So tinsel and lights for especially Christmas lights, because cats will think it's good to chew on it and can cause electrocution and fluid in the lungs and a lot of issues medically. So for my own cat, and kids, we keep our Christmas tree kind of naked on the third part of it down. So it looks a little weird, but it's worth it for preventing them from having any issues like linear foreign bodies or electrocution, again, like I said. So I'd much rather prevent those things and just not let tinsel in the house, make sure you don't have lilies in the house, and just try to be as preventative as possible.
So to that point, thank you for bringing up cats. I do want to ask one, before we bid everyone farewell, your couple of quick tips for keeping birds, cats, exotics safe for the holidays.
Yeah, so kind of nice because it's a lot of the similar things. So it's the xylitol, it's the sugary things that can cause some impaction.
Impaction means?
So it can get obstructed like along the GI tract so that it can't pass. But there's definitely chocolate, like a lot of ferrets will like sweets and birds will like salty things. So trying to keep those things away from them, because the most common thing that I see is vomiting, diarrhea. Dogs, cats, also in exotics too. And I just want to preface, I'm not an exotic veterinarian. There's great, I know Kayla Golan is an amazing specialist in exotics, and Dr. Ness is great. But they do a lot of the similar things too. And then also keeping kids away from holding them. They get very stressed out, even more so. Their heart rate is like 2 to 3 times higher than a dog. So, they get very stressed out easily.
They meaning cat or exotics?
Exotics, yeah. And cats too get pretty stressed out. And cats usually aren't as forgiving as dogs. So
really good word for it.
Very worried about that and vigilant. But you can also call the ASPCA hotline as well for exotics, and then refer to exotic specialists. But I will see guinea pigs. I love seeing guinea pigs.
Do you love seeing rats?
I love seeing rats. Yeah.
Hold on,
I will see small mammals, but let me know. I do love rats.
So hold on, everybody. Before we close, or after we kind of officially close, I've got a little special surprise for Dr. Sally and everybody else. Hold tight. All right. So on that note, sure, you can bring one out. Blondie would be the preference.
They make really good pets.
They make awesome pets. We're big rat advocates, if that's an actual term.
I do just want to say something real fast, though, before we close out. So I work with an organization called Family Paws, and it's a great organization. We work with families and how to prepare for baby, how to prepare for after baby, all of that. And there is an emergency hotline that they have. So if you have any questions, Jen is amazing. She's wonderful. But there is somebody, like if you can't get a hold of a trainer and you just have a question or you need some advice, definitely look at the Family Paws hotline. It is very helpful.
That was an awesome. You're about to be upstaged by something.
I know. I could see it happening.
really, really, really good advice. This is Blondie, one of our office rats. As some people have asked, is that intentional that you have office rats? Yes, they are not. This is an intentional pet.
Rats.
We have 3. This is Blondie. Then we have Zero and Shy Zero. Linda's going to go grab another one of our friends, but they're very, very good pets. And they are, but if I were having holidays at my house, I would not allow the rats access to anybody. No, they're just too fragile. And
you're so sweet.
Yeah, they're just too fragile, and it's not fair to them. They don't get a lot of stuff that they're not used to it. Oh yeah, look at that. Hello, Ratty. We love our ratties.
They are so cute.
Oh my God, they're so cute. Really cute. All right, on that note, before we play with our rats a little bit more.
Justin will let me get a rat.
Justin, let somebody get a rat, for God's sakes. What are you holding back for? Oh, here comes Zero. And Shy Zero. Linda. This is Linda Lobo, our content director. This was brought to us today. Is that Shy? No, this is Shy. What is this Shy? This is Shy Zero. As you can see, Shy Zero, they're all sisters. Shy Zero is a little bit more shy than Blondie. And then this is Zero. Yes, my 6-year-old did name them. 5 at a time. This is Zero and Shy Zero. And they're really great. They used to live at my house, but they weren't getting enough socialization because we're busy people and Sadie's at school all day and I'm here all day. And we've got an office full of animal lovers here at FetchFind, so we decided to move their condo here, and they live here with us, and have a great time. And the other thing is, right next to us is a sleeping dog, so the dogs and the rats actually get along pretty well. So it's not usually a concern. But if you do have multiple pet species of different sizes, it's certainly to be advisable to not. Erin, you look kind of grossed out right now.
I'm just thinking of my terrier with that. So I'm like, she would just, so terriers and rats don't get along too well. No, I love the rats. I love the rats.
Oh, good, because they're so lovable. So I'm going to do an official thank you for being a part of our webcast, and whether you've watched it live on Facebook, through Zoom, or you're going to be watching it post-production. We're so happy, and we hope that you had some good takeaways. I want to thank our wonderful guests, of course, Sally and Erin. I mean, how fun. You guys are just such experienced, thoughtful, just professionals and women and parents and pet owners. Really delighted. Sorry, this is hard to be serious when there's a rat in your hair. I do. But really delightful time to be had with you guys. Thank you, Erin in Denver. We love you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm getting noises. Oh, I'm getting little noises. Once again, this webcast, Safety for Your Pets, was brought to you by your friends at FetchFind and our friends at PetSmart Grooming Academy. We'll see you all very soon. If you have any questions, please email and we will get back to you with the answers. You can email hello, HELLO, at fetchfind.com. And if there's a question that you have specifically for Erin or Sally, I will make sure that they get your questions and we'll get you an answer. And that is all we have for today. Say bye-bye. Oh, wait, we didn't show you. I did show Sassy. Sassy's sleeping. I guess I was told that I promised that everyone can see Sassy, but she is totally passed out on that couch. So we're not gonna wake her up. You've got rats. I mean, come on now. Okay, everybody. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Oh, hello, Squeaky. Yay. Squeaker, squeaker. Oh, my God.